Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Stephen H. Carter, a four-time Emmy nominee who was nominated this year for Succession in the episode America Decides. Stephen, I spoke to Andre Perec yesterday, actually, and he was saying when he got the outline for the episode, it kind of terrified him because it was basically creating an episode within an episode due to all the live elements that kind of needed to be in there to make ATN feel like a newsroom. So I guess what were your first thoughts on how to pull this off and make it feel so realistic and believable?
Um, well, yeah, he and I both. I think we watched, or I certainly watched a lot of shows that handled news coverage, morning show and other things, and this was tricky because it needs to feel like a full blown nationally important event, but within the context of one season of the show, it's sort of one episode. So um, the fear was that we wouldn't be able to pull off the scale in a single episode that you know that the episode requires and that the arc of the season requires because the election and the way Waystar and our characters and ATN influence the election are such a big part of that season. So we did some studies early on of what we could reasonably build, anticipating that we wouldn't probably get our episode scripts until maybe a month before showtime. And it was looking pretty challenging to be able to we pitched a control room connected to a studio set with some hallways in between, things like that. But none of them had the sort of massive magnitude of what we really wanted. And, we were lucky in that, I had worked for NBC years ago on the Olympics and was familiar with how much infrastructure went into any television studio in terms of the feeds and the technology and just an anchor desk is kind of a technological work of art in that it's got monitors hidden within the glass surface that talent can sort of take their cues from if necessary. And yeah, I was well aware of how difficult it would be to pull that off. So we started. I started pitching that we look further afield than the New York area, which we'd shot in a TV studio called SNY, which we rethemed to look like ATN. And every season, a woman named Katrina Whalen would come on board, and she would sort of wrangle creating a library of B-roll news footage that could be playing in people's offices in the background. And so we had that. We always wanted to have it live for the actors so that we weren't burning it in later on as green screen, but just to give our cast the sense that they were in this real world. We always wanted to do that practically. So she would create this great library of sometimes incredibly funny, content to put up there. With the writers of the show helped create some of it, and but this was sort of like that times 1,000, and we had to create all sorts of tests to see. Well, backing up a little bit, we ended up going to Englewood, New Jersey, to where CNBC has a studio that they felt there might be a chance that we would be allowed to come in and repurpose, retheme visually for our episode if we could work within the constraints of their downtime for programming. And that meant nights and weekends and, some scheduling gymnastics. But when I went out there, and before we had sort of been told, New Jersey was a little bit of a no-no because there weren't tax credits there, and try to stay in New York if we could. But New Jersey had just put in tax credits, and we thought we would probably be spending enough that we could get them if we went out there. So suddenly this new territory was on the table again. And we were able to go out to Englewood and, found this amazingly vast space that we were able to sort of create a bit of a ballet dance in terms of our schedule with their schedule and testing technology in advance, to feed our content onto all their monitors. And we built some scenic pieces to help out, ATN it up. But yeah, that was the ultimate solution, and I'm really happy that it worked out as well as it did.
It's awesome. It looks so great. I mean, it really does, and you really feel like that. It just feels like very much reality. Like you're totally buying this. You're not for a second thinking that this is not a real news network and that this is not a real newsroom, which I think is like tough to replicate unless you've like been in newsrooms. I think that's really really great.
Yeah, I mean it's completely doable, to create one from scratch, but usually that's kind of the centerpiece for your entire season.
Right?
you know,
Maybe
um,
if it
and
was
to do
like the
one
newsroom or
for sort of a
something. Yeah.
one-off
Yeah.
is a little more of a thing.
Yeah, I want to ask you a little about just moving away from there's I guess, well, you mentioned technology. One of the things, there's a great joke in the episode about the touch screen, and I guess like how
Yeah,
did you like how many like that it keeps failing and stuff. Like, can you talk a little about like how you guys kind of found like the perfect Steve Kornacki basically touch screen for those that little joke, I guess.
yeah. I mean, in talking with some of the consultants that helped us and helped the writers kind of really break down what would happen on an election night, and who are the real players and who is allowed to be in what room, at any given time, and who breaks those rules. Um, we talked about some of the touchscreen technology, and that was sort of identified as like, oh, that would be one of the nightmares. And to have like three of them go down, it would be like, that's our writers pushing the envelope. But
So good.
yeah,
Yeah, Tom being like, "It's my last touch. I'm on my last touch screen." It's just very, very funny. I want to ask you a little about we go outside of the newsroom. We're going to like the presidential war rooms or whatever, right? They're on election night, so you go
mm-hmm.
to Menken's war room and then briefly Jimenez as well. And I guess
Yeah.
like, I mean, those are hotel rooms basically that have been turned into war rooms. How did you kind of like go about like kind of creating those to make them look different enough, and also like, I don't know. It just feels like, again, like keeping with the characters. I guess like I was just like, yes, that looks like a place where Mencken would be having his like war room, and same with Jimenez as well. I don't know. I thought that was like appropriate to their parts.
Yeah, I mean, working with the writers, they gave us a fair amount of backstory, just to play with in terms of, we sort of said that Mencken was probably out of Long Island originally, and so New York City, we said, would be fair game as his base, and that worked well for Roman being able to sort of zip across town and pop into their war room in person. We said Jimenez's would likely be somewhere middle America. We kind of said Denver, and so we looked for. I mean, it was all shot in New York, but we looked for places that had sort of different styles. The Jimenez campaign certainly feels a little more down to earth and a little less flashy, and whereas the Mencken feels a little more like somebody who's really going for it,
It does, yeah.
and who cares about the optics of it more.
Yes, exactly.
Optics over policy.
Yeah, that makes sense for him, right? Yeah, sure. There's another, one of the other, I mean, a standout sequence in the show or this episode, and honestly, the whole season is the wasabi LaCroix moment. I guess,
Yeah.
like, how did you like? Are you as I mean, if you're not, it's still, you could tell. Are you like, how involved are you in like figuring out like the actual wasabi and like what that all should look like? I guess, and like kind of like how that's being presented on the set there.
Yeah, I mean, real on that particular bit, I was pretty hands off. Monica Jacobs, who is our prop master, is fantastic, and I feel confident pretty much all the time. She's been with us for several seasons, and I feel confident sort of letting her run with it, because at some point, if I'm in there saying like, oh, the wasabi should be greener or whatever, it's too many cooks in the kitchen. It's small spaces. You've got two or three camera people. You've got the director. You've got actors, and you've got props kind of refreshing things constantly. So I just sort of stayed to the sidelines for that. There was conversation about the level of the sushi catering, and it really was kind of like deli takeout level sushi, which was part of the written joke. But I think it was super well done in just the way that you get a shot of his finger kind of glancing off the plastic. So if you go back and rewatch it, you can be like, oh yeah, that's where he must have touched the wasabi, and then he's like kind of wiping his forehead, wiping his eyes. It's all very plausible, and feels believable, and yet at the same time, it's classic Succession outrageousness.
It's so good, it really is, and it's like like you mentioned the color. It's like the perfect color too, because it's been sitting out for a while, right? And it's like got that like I've had this wasabi sitting out for hours probably, and just like left there. It's so gross. It's so good. You've been nominated, I think, 3 times. This is your 3rd nomination for the show. But now it's obviously finished. Sadly for fans, and certainly probably for you too. I guess like what is like, how was it in season 4 for you to like kind of, I don't know, say goodbye to it, or not like, what I mean, like kind of like looking I don't know, did you feel like how do you feel about the whole experience, I guess, now, like, looking back on it?
Well, it's, a career high point for sure. We knew pretty early going into the season that it was going to be the last, and people sort of throughout were asking like, how broken is your heart, you know. Um, but I think Jesse was making a very smart decision, and I always sort of felt like, yeah, when it's time, you want to leave people hungry for more and not feeling like you did one too many boardroom coup attempt, you know. Um, and I think it just sort of felt right for the writers, and then therefore felt right for the rest of us. But um, the overall experience was really just incredibly lovely because the people we were working with became like family, and I've never had a better relationship with the DPs, Pat Capone, Chris Noor for the earlier seasons, and then Kate Arismendes for season 4. We just, like, you always feel like everyone's got your back, and and while we might be trying some ambitious things, it was all very openly discussed, and the amount of political drama in the show was all in front of the camera and not really behind the camera. There was mostly just a lot of kind of like really supportive camaraderie and hard work going on backstage. So I really miss that, and I will continue to.
Do you have like a favorite, I guess, either from this episode, this season, or just in general? Do you have like a favorite, I guess, set or something like you were like, I don't know, that you were or like so happy with the way it turned out, I guess?
From this season,
Yeah, we
or
can do
all
this
seasons?
season. Why don't we do this season?
Yeah. Well, I absolutely loved the set for America Decides. I
Yeah.
mean, and the amount of content that we were able to sort of pre-plan and generate and create the branding for their America Decides show, along with coverage from other networks, PGN and others. Was a lot of logistical planning in advance, and I think the folks on our team that had to deal with the tech nuts and bolts of that did such a fantastic job. Ben Ralph, Katrina Whalen, Ben Ralph did our video playback, and the number of monitors that had to be fed with like lightning speed and precision when we came in. The part of the intricacy of doing a shoot like that is that CNBC has to be broadcasting live again within hours of the time we're wrapping. So our stuff, it's like presto changeo, quick change, artistry of how we can theme the entire space to look like our ATN world, and then a matter of hours later they're back and shooting, and it's seamlessly CNBC. That took a lot of planning, and I think we pulled it off really, really well. And what's funny is I think over the seasons, Succession fans kind of expect that sort of thing without questioning how we go from Norway to Los Angeles to an episode like this, and we're running around in all those different places. So there's a lot of a lot of fine communication artistry going on to pull all that off. And
Yeah, it's really amazing. Like you said, like I think the thing about the show, it's just you're as a viewer, you completely believe all of this, right? Like it's like you're not even questioning it, and even like you're saying, like with the video playback, like the other networks, the level of detail there to have like those other networks playing in the background of a newsroom, which would be like in reality, right? Like CNBC's got like probably Fox News and CNN and all these other networks on in the
yeah,
newsroom. And the idea that that's playing there, and maybe you're not even realizing it as a viewer, but that it's there, and that it, you know what I mean? I just think it adds such a layer of, verisimilitude, basically. So it's really great.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, in creating that, we had a consultant from CNN named Sam Feist, who runs their politics desk, and he's the guy who's actually making calls during real election coverage, and he was absolutely fantastic. And so in talking about how they would have every other network sort of not the audio up but the visuals going on, and people would be sort of keeping track of like, oh, what are they running now, what's Fox running, what's CNN running, and if somebody's making an announcement that you weren't prepared to make, you're immediately asking why, what do they know that we don't know, and why are they comfortable making that call now. And he got us really into a lot of the politics of or the mechanics of all that. and how I think the writers were very astute in asking the real guys questions about what could go wrong and how has it gone wrong in the past. Certainly, I think Fox calling Arizona in 2016. There was an example in which really inspired the point about when do they call Wisconsin and because of the firebombing.
Right. It's amazing.
All based on some really good deep research.
Yeah. Stephen H. Carter, like I said, a 4-time Emmy nominee, nominated this year for Succession, America Decides. Thank you so much, and congratulations again on your nomination.
Thank you. Really, really pleasure.